Good morning from Hamburg.
Good morning, everyone.
We just had breakfast and now we wanted to go to the miniature wonderland, but there's a queue. Oopla, I'm not holding the camera straight. There's a queue of 1.5 hours, can you imagine? So we decided not to go there. Instead of this, we will show you an architectural highlight before we are heading to another destination outside of Hamburg.
And look at this glorious day.
Yeah! Finally, super sunshine.
We arrived to the Elbe tunnel, which is a tunnel underneath the Elbe river, and we can still take the elevator down and drive through the tunnel to the other side. But first, let's explain to you what this tunnel is about. This is the Elbe tunnel. This is the tunnel underneath the Elbe river. Has two pipes. Was built in 1911, and to facilitate the workers to go to the docks for working instead of taking little boats. And we're going to show you this spectacular place. It's quite an interesting architectural site.
And there are 4 elevators, which was also a sensation at that time, and each elevator can take 1 or 2 cars, and then the elevator brings the car down, and from there you drive with the car through the tunnel. And there's still a police officer working down here who is handling the elevators, and I think when you look at the size, maximum 1 car could probably go into this cabin. And now up they go. Now we are inside the old Elbe tunnel, and you can see it is decorated with a lot of maritime elements. So at that time, when it opened 1911, it was a very beautiful construction or building. And the streets, or the 2 tunnels which are here, actually have exactly the width of 1 horse carriage, which was at that time 1.82 meters. And the total length of the tunnel is 485 meters. And even today, a lot of people are using this tunnel to commute from the one side of Hamburg to the harbor side, where still a lot of people are working. And at that time, the challenge, and that was actually also why they built the tunnel, there were 20,000 people working in the harbor, and 25,000 people were working in the shipbuilding docks. And it was really difficult for all the people to commute from one side to the other. You can imagine the amount of ferries they needed to bring all the people from the one side to the other. So they were thinking about a bridge, and they were thinking about the tunnel, and finally then decided to build this tunnel. Just figured out that we can use the Elbe tunnel only 10 more minutes until 1 o'clock, and now we're gonna do it. We will drive through it. Now we are driving south, and actually on the other side, now comes Cobblestone. On the other side of the Elbe tunnel, there's not much to see because it's only industrial area, docks, harbor companies, etc. And we are heading now to another architectural highlight of the 70s, I think 70s. We just drove over, it's called Kirkman Walker, and it has a height of 53 meters. It was built 1970 and finished 1972, and it's connecting, actually it's going over the Kirkbrand, and it's connecting Hamburg harbor with the highway number 7, which goes from the north to the south through Germany. And they're currently discussing to tear down this bridge and build a new one which needs to be 73 meters high, much higher, or even building a tunnel, and they need to be finished by 2030 because the harbor is growing and growing and they need more space. And now we have arrived to Finkenwerder.
We're here in the St. Pancratius Church in the Old Land. The Old Land is an area south of the river Elbe, from Hamburg towards the North Sea. This area is very fertile for fruits and apples and cherries and pears because it's old sea bottom. And this church, like all the churches in this area, is built on the highest spot of the village because the Elbe River usually always flooded, and this was also a place where people then could flee the floodings. This church is from 1683, so it's 330 years old already. And you can see these churches have very big organs on the top made from wood, and they are very, very spectacular. And also the paintings in the ceiling are very spectacular in this church.
And this church is actually located in Finkenwerder, and most of these churches here in the Old Land, das alte Land, are made from wood. This one is maybe an example because it's made from stone. And the towers of the church are normally built next to the church because they are too heavy for the ground, because the ground is a swamp. And here in Finkenwerder is also a factory of a product which everybody of you have probably already used in the past. There's a big Airbus factory, and permanently on special days planes are taking off and landing, of course, because they're doing tests with the airplanes. And the Old Land, das alte Land, is one of the biggest fruit plantation areas in Europe. On over 10,500 hectares, they have more than 10 million fruit trees, so apple, pears, cherry trees, etc. At all the farmers in the Alte Land, you can buy the fruits directly on the farm. And this one is a very innovative guy because he has a fruit Tankstelle, and Tankstelle means actually gas station in German. And here you can choose what you want to have. So you put the money in here, and for €5.80 you get 2 fresh bowls of strawberries, including Haribo Gummibärli. And in the Old Land, the fruit farmers, they had very generous houses with these wooden works and ornaments, and also with these very luxurious gates where they want to show how powerful they were and how much money they were earning. We are now in York, which is a part of the old land, and we found a spot inside these beautiful old wooden houses where you can have a Altländer Apfelkuchen, which is a traditional apple cake, and of course coffee. And we are sitting actually in a Strandkorb, which you maybe have seen in our old video from Sylt.
On the way from York to Stade, we stopped at the dam. You can see the very flat old land behind me, and if you turn around you can see the river Elbe, and we're standing actually on the dam which protects the land from the overflowing river, which you can see now is pushing in from the North Sea. The tide is getting high, so the water's coming in. And over there is Hamburg.
And the sheeps here on the dam have actually two very important functions. One is of course to cut the grass permanently and very efficient, as you can see. I think they have a little bit hot today because it's 28 degrees. And the second function is when they walk on the dam, they make the soil very compact and compress it, and then it's really good in case of a flooding.
We have arrived in Stade, and Stade is actually Fridtjof's birthplace. And here is a church which is already, I have to look, almost 700 years old. Of course, not every part of it. It's early Gothic style, and it used to have a holy well where people were baptized. So that's where the church stands now. Here in the very center of Stade you can see the city hall and the St. Cosme church, which has a famous organ in it from Art Schnitger or something like that. And this is a 17th century building. And Stade used to be a much important city than Hamburg back in the times. It's also a Hanseatic city, but lost then in importance to Hamburg.
And as Marty was saying, Stade is a Hansestadt, and there was also a lot of trade. And the harbor is actually here in Stade is connected with the Elbe River through a channel. And on this old picture here, you can see that how the boats were coming from the Elbe into Stade and delivering their goods, and then unloading the goods into the storage houses.